What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. And in today's video we are going to be discussing more fight announcements that were dropped recently from Baldy Dana White. Goes on his little Instagram live and he drops some bangers. He drops some fights, there's a couple fights to discuss. Obviously the most notable of which, Gaethje versus Fiziev 2. Fiziev, no one knows what his surname is. And they're fighting next weekend on short notice. 3-round co-main event replacing Dan Hooker. Obviously, I did that video the other day discussing a potential replacement. Fiziev did seem like a guy who was probably in that leading group of options. He gets the call. Interesting rematch. Also, we got Bryce Mitchell versus Gene Silva. They're just rebooking everyone from Seattle immediately because Melk Costa's fighting Christian Rodriguez on the Mexico card, and Ion Kutalaba's posting that he's got fight news, and Modestas Pekauskas is posting that he's got fight news, and yeah, they're just rebooking everyone from this card. So Gene Silva versus Bryce Mitchell's official for UFC 314 in Miami on that stacked card. We also have Jamal Hill versus Khalil Rountree as the main event of UFC Kansas City on April 26th. That's a cool fight, badass fight, let me tell you, kid. And then finally, we have Mario Bautista, the return of Osama bin Laden, and he will be facing Chito Vera on the card, headlined by Figueiredo and Sandhagen at UFC Des Moines. So that is the fight announcements to discuss. And yeah, let's get started, obviously, with the first one. It is Gaethje versus Fiziev. I'm actually going to be picking Rafael Fiziev to win. And now I know that might be an unpopular pick, and some people are probably going to call me retarded, and this might age badly. If Gaethje goes out there and KOs Fiziev with a head kick in round 2, I will fully accept the aged like milk comments that will inevitably be under my reaction video, because that is a possibility of a Gaethje win is most certainly possible here. But I'm going to say this, everyone, all the comments in the replies to this are being like mid, fights mid, didn't want this, the rematch no one was asking for. Bro, the first fight was sick. Fiziev arguably won the first 2 rounds. Two judges gave Fiziev the second, 2 judges gave him the first, and it was just a weird split of one judge gave Fiziev the first 2, one judge gave Fiziev the first, and then gave Gaethje the second 2, and then one judge gave Fiziev the second, and then Gaethje the first and third. So it was a weird situation with that fight, but I think the first and second were both easily scoreable to Rafael Fiziev. Not easily so much for the second, but he clearly won the first, and the second could have gone either way. So I wouldn't be surprised if he comes in and looks really good in this fight. Now, yes, I know he's off a long layoff. I know the injury, especially it being an ACL injury where Rafael Fiziev's style is kick heavy, could cause him some problems. It could be trouble, and now that does lead me to believe that Gaethje might do well in this fight. But I also think Justin Gaethje is not at his best anymore. I think after all the damage he's been taking, I don't think we're going to see a prime Gaethje. I don't think we're going to see Gaethje show up as good as he was in the Fiziev fight the first time around. I think that version of Gaethje is one of the best versions of Gaethje to ever show up. Probably second behind the Gaethje that KO'd Poirier about 4 or 5 months later, or however long later that was. So what was that? Hang on, it was 286, then it was 291. So yeah, about 5 months later, when he head kick KO Dustin Poirier in the rematch. That I'd say is the best version of Gaethje we've seen. But the Fiziev, that was he talked about that, and he said sometimes I go in there and I fight like a fucking idiot, like against Oliveira or like against Chandler. And then, in his early career, because he tried to shore things up after during that Ferguson fight, and then after that started fighting more patient, and then he sort of abandoned it in a few fights. But we saw patient Gaethje, and we saw refined, actual technical Justin Gaethje in that Fiziev fight. I don't know if we see that guy here. This dude's been prepping for Dan Hooker. He's probably been preparing to go in there and just swing big meaty hooks and see who dies. And also, everyone saying mid or this fight sucks is maybe it's not going to be as fun. I'm not denying that the Dan Hooker fight certainly was going to be a fight of the year potential. This might not be. It could still be a very good fight. I think any Justin Gaethje fight is just going to be fight of the year potential on merit alone. But if you look at the odds, Justin Gaethje was about -180 against Dan Hooker. He's now an underdog. He is an underdog on the betting odds against Rafael Fiziev. Now, maybe you think those odds are retarded, and you think that this is an easier matchup for Gaethje than Dan Hooker was. I don't think it is. I think this is a much more difficult matchup. And I thought Gaethje was going to beat Dan Hooker comfortably, or maybe not comfortably, but if he did lose, it would just be because his chin was gone. But I was like, if they just fight, Gaethje's going to win. But now with this Fiziev fight, Fiziev is considerably quicker than Gaethje. We saw that in round 1 of their first fight. And if Fiziev can hold that pace up, which I back because he's been training, he's been looking for fights. He was trying to fight Gamrot on the Saudi card. Gamrot ended up turning that down. He was trying to get a fight with anyone, but fucking Garam called this guy out. We were borderline seeing Garam versus Fiziev just because he wanted to fight so badly. So I think he's in shape. The fact that he took it, the fact that he didn't ask for a catch weight, makes me think he's probably in shape to go 3 rounds. If it was a 5-rounder and I didn't think Fiziev was going to get a finish, it's definitely money value on Gaethje if these odds were the same. I do think if it was 5 rounds, Gaethje would probably be about -130, -140 favourite. But 3 rounds favours Fiziev undoubtedly. But also, people acting like this dude's cardio is just dismal. Like, this dude is not fucking Michel Pereira. This dude is not Abbas Magomedov. Like, this is not Shamil Gaziev. Like, he can push a bit of a pace. I'm not saying he's Marab, but, like, he can fight effectively, I think, for minimum 2 rounds. I don't think he wasn't, like, really... And he came out strong in the third against Gaethje, wobbled Gaethje. It's not like he just was trying to out-technique him and kick at range on the outside and point fest. Like, he was getting in the pocket and scrapping with Gaethje and was quicker to the punch, cracking him in that first fight, landing low kicks. Gaethje was landing good low kicks too, so Fiziev, that isn't a worry. But again, this is not like Jamal Hill returning from the Achilles injury like 9 months after. This is Fiziev taking like a year and basically a year and a half off from September 2023 to March of 2025. I think he's fine. He's been looking for a fight since like last September is what he said. So I think he'll be healed up. I don't think the ACL will be too much of an issue, hopefully. If he tears his ACL, petition to just make that pick a no contest. So I don't get this pick wrong, but I am picking Fiziev, and I'm annoyed because I was hoping to like come on here and like be tricky and be like, oh, look at me guys, I'm taking the underdog of Fiziev. He's a fucking favourite on the odds. Hopefully he closes as an underdog so I can look smart if he wins. But if he wins, everyone's going to be like, oh, left lane picking favourites as usual. But I'm like, again, I pick fights and then they just happen to be fucking favourites. Like, I don't know why Fiziev's a favourite, to be honest. It seems like everyone, the Tapology picks are going to be all in favour. It's going to be like 80% Gaethje. All these polls I've put up, I'll check the actual poll that I put up on YouTube now. Fucking chargers making noise and fuck off. But I'll check the poll I put up on YouTube on my community page because it's pretty, not like one-sided to Gaethje, but it's considerably in Gaethje's favour. You guys think Gaethje's going to win, which I respect. Let me see. It's 78% Justin Gaethje. Right now it's got 1.5k votes. Crazy stuff, to be honest. I think you guys are massively underrating Fiziev just because of the time off, just because of the short notice aspect. I don't think it'll make that much of an issue. 5 rounds, definitely. 3-rounder, I rate, if you're not in shape to go 3 rounds on 2 weeks' notice, I don't think you should be a top 10 fighter. And I think Fiziev is capable of being a top 10 fighter. I thought he won the first fight. I don't think Gaethje's going to look as good as he did in the first fight. Here, I think Gaethje's going to look mid. And I think if we did see that Gaethje-Dan Hooker fight go ahead, I think we would be like, damn, that was fun, but fuck, Gaethje's kind of mid. Like, how good's his chin going to be? Like, there's no questions about Fiziev's chin or durability. Like, it's just a worry about maybe the leg and then maybe the cardio. If his cardio holds up and he can push a pace for 2, I can back him to win 2 rounds. And again, no 5-rounder definitely benefits Fiziev. So I'm going to go with Rafael Fiziev to win here. And it's crazy because he's number 11 fighting the number 3. So if he actually can win, this is a massive opportunity. Basically all to win, nothing to lose for Fiziev. Obviously, if he loses, it is 3 fights on the trot for the losing streak, but it'll be short notice. It's against Gaethje again, but if he wins, you avenge the loss, you get to number 3 in the rankings, and you're probably looking at 1 fight from a title shot. Like, or even if Islam wins, maybe even getting yourself a vacant belt shot against like an Arman or an Oliveira or something like that. So Fiziev's in the mix with a win here, and I actually think he'll show up well and shine and prove everyone wrong and claim himself a spot in that top 5. And I think we're finally at the point where these old guys are on the way out. I think there was that run where all the old guys stuck around, obviously, where Gaethje did beat Fiziev, where Poirier beat BSD. But Oliveira lost to Arman. You know, Poirier's about to retire. I think we're going to see these guys slowly fall out of the top 10, retire. And I think Fiziev's going to get the win. So yeah, that's the major one to discuss. But other than that, Bryce Mitchell versus Gene Silva. This one's a banger. Well, it could be very boring. If Gene wins, it's going to be entertaining. If Bryce wins, it's going to be very boring. And this is not because I hate Bryce. I quite like Bryce. I think he's got some good points to say. You know, I hear him out on some things. You know, he's a pattern recognizer. You know, Bryce Mitchell. But you know, he does his research. No one does the research. People forget, man. No one does their research like Bryce Mitchell. He digs deep into the archives. But I'm going to be picking Gene Silva. Obviously, the Fighting Nerds plot armor is just too strong to go against Gene Silva right now. I'm a Fighting Nerds D1 Glazer. You know, Prates, Gene Silva are both going to extend their winning streak. Both going to extend their KO streaks to 5 on this card. That's what I'm backing. We got Rountree showing up large at 313. Hopefully, getting a win over Bobby Green. I can predict that already by TKO in the second round. And then we're going to see, obviously, we don't know the card order just yet, but maybe fighting back-to-back. Because it seems like Yair Pitbull's going to be that. Maybe one. I wouldn't. Just going to say this. Put this out there. Mystic left lane coming in clutch here. I don't think they're going to put this on the main card. I think they're going to put this not even as the prelim headliner. I think they're going to put this as the second, or they might put it on the prelim headliner. Run the broadcast out beyond belief, and then hope Bryce Mitchell doesn't win. And if he does, they won't give him an interview. Because if they put him on pay-per-view, unless it's just the most boring fight to ever exist, it's kind of inexcusable to not give him an interview. But if he goes out there and wins a boring-ass decision, and they're running overtime, and they're at like 1:59, well, in America time, let's say like 9:59 p.m., about to switch over to the main card, and they can't have time, they could be like, nope, sorry, no interview for you, Bryce, and just hope Gene wins. It wouldn't surprise me if they don't. But the UFC realistically doesn't really care about public perception. They mostly just care about pay-per-view sales, if they can get extras. So yeah, Bryce Mitchell's discussion points, you know, Bryce Mitchell's research, which is brought to our attention, has generated mainstream recognition. Like, it was all over Twitter. It was all over all of the fucking social media, political channels and stuff. Everyone was talking about it. So he will draw interest. And there are going to be, like, you know when Strickland had that whole shit with Canada and that got a few more people watching the fight, some casuals that started, like, claiming robbery who had never watched the sport before just because they saw Strickland and liked what he said. I think we're going to see some people like that with Bryce Mitchell. We're going to see some buys of people who want to see him get slapped and some people who want to see him win because they like him, you know? I don't mind Bryce Mitchell, but I'll always be rooting for the Fighting Nerds. Gene Silva's going to win. What are they right now? I think it's Baralio's 7-0. Gene Silva and Prates are both 4-0. So that is 15-0, and then Roufie's 2. So I think they're 17-0, I believe, right now, if I'm not mistaken. 17-0 checks out, and we're going to get a Roufie win, and we're going to get a Prates win, and we're going to get a Gene Silva win. They're going to go to 20-0. Trust. That's happening. Anyway, I'm picking Gene Silva by KO. If we're actually breaking down the fight, I think he's too powerful. I think he's too quick. And even though MMA Guru is somehow trying to cope biased, pick his way into a Bryce Mitchell underdog selection, I don't think it's there. Like, Bryce wins fights against lower level guys, against guys with grappling weaknesses, or against guys who just can't really finish him. Like, his best win is Dan Ige. The Cron fight was mid as fuck. He didn't even look good. Cron fight was mid. Dan Ige, and who else? Like, he hasn't, if you actually look at the resume of Bryce Mitchell, it feels like he's been around for a minute, because he's had some other fights. But his wins, I don't think are that good. Like, Topuria, he, dodged some shots off Topuria at times, but I don't know, I think Gene Silva's just too much of a sniper. He's too dangerous on the feet. I'm trying to fucking find Bryce Mitchell's Sherdog. Just to show you his wins, because I don't know, none of his wins tell me he's going to go out there and ragdoll Gene Silva. He's 30 years old, that's not a concern, but he has been slept by Josh Emmett. I think Gene Silva's laying him out here, but like wins. Kron Gracie in a mid performance. Dan Ige, I thought he lost that fight. Edson Barboza was a good fight, but again, you could be like, oh, Barboza's a dynamic striker, just like Silva. Barboza's always had a heavy wrestling weakness, but like Andre Feely by decision. Like, I don't know. I just don't rate the wins of Bryce Mitchell too much. So I think Gene's going to go out there, stuff the takedowns. Maybe get taken down a few times, pop back up. Bryce is not some fucking just gets on your back, immediately chokes you out straight away. Like, he's got submissions for sure. He's dangerous on the ground, but I don't know if he's just going to sub Gene Silva, and I just don't think you can lay and pray Gene Silva for the whole time. Like, Jourdain took him down 3 times, yes. Gene Silva's got an 80% takedown defense. Guru's acting like he's got some fucking, like, no Darren Till level takedown defense. He's got an 80% takedown defense. Again, not a big sample size, but Dober struggled to take him down. Jourdain struggled to hold him down, you know. So I reckon Gene Silva gets it done comfortably. Anyway, we got next up Jamahal Hill, Khalil Rountree. No odds out for this one. I imagine we're going to see Khalil at like minus 130 would be my guess. I'll be picking Khalil. I just can't back Jamahal Hill coming off this quick of a turnaround, coming off a bad loss against Yuri where he was dropped multiple times, took a lot of damage. I don't trust him. I think Khalil's quicker. I think Jamal needs to be quicker than his opponents to have a lot of success in fights. We saw that with Glover, where in hindsight, the beating he put on Glover on the feet should have kind of been expected. Glover was taking a bunch of damage, considerably slower. Jamal just looked like he was moving at 2 times speed compared to Glover out there. Khalil ain't going to be slower than him. 5 rounds. We have seen Hill go 5. We haven't seen Khalil go 5. We have seen Khalil go into the 4th against Pereira, but I don't think Jamahal Hill is going to do that cumulative damage to Khalil where he can just wear him down to a TKO in the 4th. I don't think he's that dangerous. He's dangerous. He can crack. Khalil has been put away. So maybe this is a fucking you all must have forgotten. We overrate Khalil and we underrate Jamahal Hill and we disrespect him coming off losses, but I reckon Khalil gets this one done by KO inside 2 or inside 3 at least. Again, I think he's just too dangerous. Like, it's not like he's a 1-round fighter. Like, he's most effective in round 1 for sure. And yes, it is interesting because he was looking kind of mid in fights against Anthony Smith and Chris Daukaus. But the Pereira fight was just such a good look for him that I have to assume he's around that level. Maybe not at that level. If he's at that level, if the Rountree that fought Pereira shows up against the Hill that fought either Pereira or the Hill that fought Yuri, I think Hill's getting slept. If we get the fucking Khalil Rountree that showed up against Anthony Smith and the Hill that showed up against Glover, yeah, Hill's probably winning. But I reckon Rountree looks good coming back here. He's taken some time. Again, difference is he's taken time since that damage. He fought in October. He's going to have some time. Jamal fought in January coming off like a KO loss. Not like flatline, but like multiple knockdowns, damage, loss. So I reckon, I think Khalil gets him out there. Anyway, last fight to discuss, Mario Bautista versus Chito Vera. This one's been rumored for a minute. It was rumored for Mexico. Now it's on the Des Moines card. Also rumors going around of Bo Nickel versus Dorito is what I've been told, which will be fun. Don't know. Hopefully they're like, get Bo Nickel off pay-per-views, honestly. Glad to see that if it happens. But, I'm going to be picking Bautista, and I hate Bautista, but I think he wins. I'm not even a Cheeto fan, but I want Cheeto to punt kick this dude's head into the fucking 3rd row. But I don't think it'll happen. I think Bautista's a bit too smudgy. You know, he's a bit too good with the clinch game. And also, Cheeto's takedown defense sucks. And it's 3 rounds. 5 rounds, I'd pick Cheeto probably, because he just ain't getting finished, and he's going to push a pace in the 3rd and 4th. Or in the 4th and 5th, I should say. But Bautista, he pushed a pace in the 3rd against Damon Blackshear. He pushed a smudge pace against Aldo in the 3rd. He does have cardio, is what it seems like. He put a pace on Simone in the 3rd, which is actually impressive. If he'd fought how he did against Simone against Aldo, I wouldn't have even hated it. Even if he won, I would have been like, alright, you just were better on the night. But he smudged the fuck out of Aldo. Pissed me off. Anyway, I think Bautista wins. I think this is going to be it's going to be a little bit before, a couple fights before we get to see this dude laid out cold by like a Song Yadong or just schooled by a PDR or something like that. I think the downfall of Bautista will be soon, but it won't start at UFC Des Moines. Anyway, that will do it, guys. I hope you enjoyed. What do you think of the fights? I'll read out the polls as well that I put up just to see. So, as I said, Fiziev, big underdog in the polls-wise. Obviously, on the odds, they got him as a favourite, which is interesting. We'll be just to see how many people who keep saying free money on Gaethje actually put their money where their mouth is to swing that line. But we got, let's see, we got 74% of people out of 868 picking Khalil Rountree. We got 78% of people picking Cheeto. I think that's mostly just them hating Bautista. And then we got 83% out of 1.6k picking Gene Silva. I think that happens. Anyway, that'll do it. Also, shout out to myself for being top 10 predictors on YouTube. We're going to keep it moving. We're doing well. Bedtime Guru, Lucas, you're all washed. Suck it up. Get out of here, pack it up. Off to the GFL with you. Anyway, goodbye. See you later.